What if your introversion isn't something you were born with at all? What if it's something you learned because you had to stay quiet to survive? You've worn the introvert label for years, thinking it's just who you are. But what if that label is covering up something deeper? A childhood where silence felt safer than being seen. Picture yourself as a small child, wide-eyed and hiding in the shadows. In the next room, voices are raised. You hold your breath, heart pounding, and you learn an unspoken rule. The quieter you are, the safer you become. Maybe one day you dared to speak your mind or laugh a little too loud, and it was met with a sharp look or harsh word. The message landed crystal clear. Being quiet keeps you out of trouble. Every time your voice stirred conflict, you learned to swallow it. Or perhaps your home was already full of its own troubles, and you decided not to add to them. You became the easy child, the quiet one who doesn't make waves or ask for much. In your young mind, needing nothing seemed like the only way to be loved. As the years passed, silence became your second nature. At school, you might have been the shy one, more comfortable reading in a corner than shouting on the playground. You weren't just born reserved. You were practicing the quiet role you learned at home, day after day. For a child, quietness can feel like an invisibility cloak, a shield from yelling, criticism, or the unpredictable storms of adult moods. You learned to tiptoe around emotions and sense danger before it exploded. This wasn't your personality yet. It was pure survival instinct. You became hypervigilant, always on guard. You could read a room like a weather radar, detecting the slightest shift in tone or mood. It was exhausting to be so alert, but you believed staying one step ahead of trouble would keep you safe. For a child, love equals safety. You'd do anything to keep that love. That's how attachment works when you're small. If staying quiet earned your parents' approval, you stuck to that strategy. Their affection felt conditional. You got smiles when you were low maintenance and polite, but anger or distance whenever you made waves or had needs. You began to shape yourself into whatever you thought would make them happy. It didn't feel safe to be the whole, loud, curious you. So you tucked that part away and presented a quieter version. You created a false self, smiling, agreeable, and safely invisible. Those childhood survival tactics never disappeared. They grew up with you. They turned into habits and tendencies you now think of as just the way I am. But look closer. Your overthinking, your people-pleasing, your need to be perfect. They all echo that little kid coping. You overthink everything. If a friend takes an hour longer to reply, you immediately wonder what you did wrong and analyze every word of your last message. If a stranger gives you a weird look, you replay that moment on loop. Your mind dissects every interaction, looking for danger. You're a people pleaser to your core. You apologize when someone bumps into you. You say yes to plans you secretly hate, just to keep everyone else happy. You bury your own needs and opinions, because the thought of upsetting anyone fills you with dread. Peace at any price. You chase perfection in everything. You triple-check an email before sending it, afraid a single typo will expose you as not good enough. You hold yourself to impossible standards because deep down you learned early on that making a mistake meant losing love or approval. If you're perfect, maybe you'll feel safe. You wear a mask every day. You smile when you're hurting, laugh politely at jokes that bother you, and act fine even when you're not. You become whoever you think people want you to be. After years of this, you sometimes wonder where that mask ends and the real you begins. It might feel like we just listed a bunch of flaws. But here's the truth. Nothing about you is flawed for no reason. Every one of those habits was a solution your younger self came up with. They were all ways to keep you safe in a world that felt unpredictable. Overthinking helped you prepare for any outcome, so you'd never be caught off guard. People-pleasing kept conflict at bay when you were afraid of anger. Perfectionism became your armor against criticism and failure. Even that false smile was a shield, protecting the soft parts of you from attack. These weren't quirks. They were survival tools, every last one. And here's the beautiful twist. The very traits that once caged you can now become your strengths. Your sensitivity and awareness mean you notice things others miss. Your thoughtfulness makes you creative and considerate. Your knack for observing before acting gives you insight and patience. What used to be just survival tactics can become superpowers when you use them by choice, not fear. Now we confront a hard truth. Who taught you these things in the first place? We often learn our survival strategies from our parents. Yours, intentionally or not, showed you that quiet was safe and speaking up was risky. They might have been fighting their own demons, but in the crossfire, you learned to disappear. This isn't about blaming them outright. Your parents were probably shaped by their own pasts, too. Maybe your mom grew up hearing that children should be seen and not heard. Maybe your dad learned to swallow his feelings because that's what his parents did. They likely passed down the same silence they were taught, not out of malice, but because it was all they knew. So here you are, carrying not just your own baggage, but generations of unspoken feelings. Realizing that your introversion might be a hand-me-down coping mechanism can stir up a storm of emotions. You might feel anger, sadness, even guilt for thinking this way about your family. It's okay to feel all of it. It's painful to see how those you love, even unwittingly, set you up to hurt. But recognizing this truth is the first step toward healing. You have a choice now. Repeat the pattern or break the cycle. Breaking it doesn't mean you have to hate your parents or throw away your quiet nature. It means you become aware of the pattern and decide it ends with you. You can declare in your own heart that the legacy of unspoken pain stops here. No more tiptoeing in your parents' shadow. How do you actually break free from a pattern woven so deeply into you? You start by reparenting yourself. It sounds odd, but it's powerful. You become the parent to yourself that you always needed. Inside you, that scared child still lives, waiting to be heard. Now it's your turn to give them the comfort and validation they deserved. You tell yourself the gentle truths you should have heard years ago. That you're enough, that your voice matters, that it's okay to be who you are. When you feel anxious about speaking up, you soothe yourself instead of shutting down. When you make a mistake, you remind yourself gently that mistakes don't make you unlovable. This is reparenting in action, treating yourself with the patience and understanding you never got. At first, it feels foreign, but with time, those nurturing words start to sink in. The old fear loses its grip. You also practice finding your voice, maybe for the first time. Start small. Share one honest opinion with a friend instead of just agreeing. Admit to someone you trust that you're struggling instead of saying, "I'm fine." The first time you do it, your heart will race and your hands might shake. It feels like breaking a rule, because for you, it is. It's breaking the rule of silence. But once the words leave your lips and the world doesn't end, you taste a freedom you never knew before. Each tiny act of self-expression is a victory. Saying no when you need to, asking for what you want, speaking up when something's not okay. Every time you do it, you prove to yourself that you won't shatter like glass. The more you speak your truth, the more natural it becomes. What once felt impossible starts feeling empowering. You're teaching your brain that it's safe to be seen, and you are literally rewiring your mind. Every time you break an old pattern, your brain forms a new pathway. The first time you set a boundary or stand up for yourself. It might feel awkward and wrong. But do it again and again, and those new pathways grow stronger. The old ones, the silence, the self-censoring, start to weaken. You're not just changing a habit. You're changing your internal programming, step by step. It won't happen overnight. You'll slip, finding yourself tongue-tied or retreating at times. There will be days you still call yourself an introvert and mean you're scared. But now, you catch it. Now, when the old fears creep in, you notice them like echoes of the past. And in that moment, you can choose differently. Instead of judging yourself for falling back, you can say, "It's okay, I know why I did that, and I can try again tomorrow." That understanding, that grace you give yourself, is part of the healing. As you heal, something magical happens. The quiet you once clung to in fear becomes a quiet you cherish in peace. You may always be a naturally reserved person, and that's fine. But now your alone time is for recharging, not hiding. Your silence is an oasis, not a bunker. You can enjoy the calm of your own company, not because you're afraid of others, but because you value yourself. Think of yourself like a bird who forgot how to sing because it grew up in a cage. For years, silence was your protection. But now the door is open. You might still sit quietly on the perch, taking in this new freedom slowly. That's okay. There's no rush. But day by day, you stretch your wings. And one day, you feel safe enough to sing. The voice that you locked away pours out, maybe softly at first, a tentative chirp, but then louder and more confident. That quiet bird had a powerful song inside all along. You carry the scars of your past, but they are only part of your story, not the whole. Yes, your parents shaped you, but you are not bound to stay in that shape forever. You have the right to reshape yourself, to keep what serves you and discard what doesn't. You have the strength to turn your pain into growth. Every step you take to heal is proof that you are so much more than what happened to you. And now, here you stand, quieter than some, louder than you used to be, and wholly your own. Your introversion is no longer a prison sentence handed down by your past. It's a choice, an aspect of you, one that you can let shine or let rest as you see fit. You can be the calm in the room without feeling small. You can listen more than you speak and still know your voice matters when you do speak. In reclaiming your story, you break the chain that held you. The shy child within you isn't running the show anymore. Instead, they're finally at peace, safe in your care. And you, the adult, are free to step into the world not as someone hiding, but as someone who chooses when to be quiet and when to speak, when to step back and when to step forward. That is true freedom, having the choice. This journey isn't about becoming a different person. It's about becoming fully yourself. If you are quiet, let it be because you love the quiet, not because you fear what happens if you make noise. If you prefer a few close friends to a crowd, let it be because it warms your soul, not because you think you don't deserve to be heard. You're not throwing away who you are. You're reclaiming it from the forces that stifled you. Quiet can be powerful. Think of the still night that lets you see the stars or the calm lake that runs deep. That's you. Depth, clarity, and calm strength. But now, when needed, you can also be the storm. You have it in you to speak up for yourself, to roar when life demands a roar. And because it's coming from a place of authenticity, your voice, whether it's a whisper or a shout, will be true. Healing means you get to write your own definition of introvert or extrovert or anything in between. It means you're no longer boxed in by labels or childhood roles. One day you might be the quiet observer at a party, and the next, the passionate storyteller. And both will feel right, because you're finally free to be all sides of you. There's no more supposed to be. There's just you, evolving. As you break free, you might even inspire those around you, including your parents. Change can ripple outward. The first time you calmly tell your mom how you really feel, you're not just healing yourself, you're gently shaking the foundation of that old family silence. You're showing that it's okay to talk, to feel, to connect. You're giving permission to others to do the same. Just by living your truth. Breaking generational patterns is heavy work, but it's heroic work. You're not only freeing yourself, you're lighting a way for anyone who comes after you. Imagine if you ever have kids or mentor someone younger, how different it could be. Because you did the work, they might never have to cage their own voice to feel safe. They'll grow up knowing that being quiet can be nice, but they never have to be silent out of fear. And in the end, maybe you'll find that being an introvert is actually one of your greatest strengths, when it's truly your choice. Introversion can mean deep thought, creativity, empathy, and a rich inner life. These are gifts. You get to enjoy them now, without the shadow of fear. When you choose a night in to recharge, you won't secretly be hiding. You'll be honoring what you need. When you observe more than you speak, it won't be because you're scared. It'll be because you're listening by choice, learning, taking it all in. You've turned what was once a coping mechanism into a superpower. Where once you felt defined by your wounds, now you define yourself by how you've healed. The quiet kid who felt invisible has grown into a quiet force of nature, subtle but unstoppable. You move through life with a new confidence, one that doesn't need to shout to be heard. Your parents made you an introvert, yes, but you and only you get to decide what that means from here on out. Maybe they gave you the ingredients, but you're the one cooking this meal now. You can take the recipe and change it entirely. In the story of your life, the pen is in your hands now, not theirs. Healing is a liberation. It's the moment you realize that no matter what shaped you, you have the power to reshape yourself. It's standing at the threshold of the cage and knowing you can fly away whenever you want, or sit quietly and enjoy the open sky. Both are freedom because they're your choice. That's what breaking free looks like. It's gentle, it's profound, and it's yours. If this journey we've talked about resonates with you, consider tapping that like button. After all, if you're still here listening, something in these words rang true. And giving a like is a simple way to say it helped. And if you feel like this is just the start of a bigger conversation, join us by subscribing. Because this journey of understanding ourselves, it's just beginning. And we've got so much more to explore together. And now I have a question for you, one that only you can answer. Who might you become when you no longer live in silence? When the quiet you carry is a peace you chose, not a fear you're chained to. What does that make possible for you? Think about that. Feel it. That answer is your next chapter.